Mate, if I went to a Scandi jail, I'd come out a better person. I'd have probably at least 2 postgraduate qualifications, and I'd also probably have some vocational training.
I don't know that I can differentiate between a Scandinavian jail and lockdown.
The bliss of the abyss.
Once upon a time in a land far away, a poor farmer and his wife lived all alone. They were very lonesome.
The Bliss of the Abyss.
With Robert Newmark Jones.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Bliss of the Abyss, featuring me, your host. A collection of letters, when spelled out from left to right, has the following outcome. Robert, Ruskin, Bob, Bobbert, Brrrr. That's me. And you, of course, are the listener, tuning in, as you always do, with hope in your hearts, with a dream and a spring in your step, and the world at your fingertips, locked away forever. So in the abyss, let's find some bliss. And this week's serving of bliss that I have to give to you is me and 2 of my oldest, bestest mates shooting the shit, chatting crap in studio. Indy and Chris, 2 people who were my best man at my wedding, some of my favourite human beings on this planet, and we recorded it in studio, which means in my house. And this was before the lockdown. For those of you in the UK, for those of you not in the UK, London has just been put on a special lockdown, which means you're not allowed to have friends round your house anymore. So this was recorded before that, just to clear things up. We are not breaking the law. We chatted about all kinds of really great stuff. To give you some idea, some of the topics that we covered: chicken runoff, for example, a hoverboarding dentist, the decline of George Foreman grills, fairground entrepreneurs, destroying a whole country's internet. Imagine that. So it's one of my favourite episodes I think I've ever recorded. These are guys that I've known for a long time, and hopefully some of that camaraderie comes through, and you can hear the sheer joy of hanging with some of your mates and shooting the shit. That's what I'm trying to convey to you, just to give you an insight into a happy time with some friends, because why the fuck not, eh? Life's fucking hard enough as it is, isn't it? I mean, I just saw the other day that alcohol sales were, I think it was 40% up from last year's purchases. So that gives you some idea of how utterly thrilled everybody is with this current moment that we're living in. But this podcast is not called The Abyss, it's called The Bliss of the Abyss. So for the next hour and change, kick back and enjoy.
We always start with an EMP pulse, just to make sure.
So, how are we doing, gentlemen? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
Pleasure to have you in studio.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, what have you been up to? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Indraneelan.
Thank you very much. That, I think, is the only response to that.
What have you done with your birthday?
Still.
Good question, Chris.
Well, up until just now, it's been a completely regular day. If anything, even more London than London usually is. This has been particularly grey and rainy. If grey and rainy describes London, then this has been the most London day we've had in about a year.
For me, a London day is one spent primarily travelling.
I did do a lot more travelling than I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
I turned up to a tuition for the first time, completely soaked in bike leathers. She opened the door and she said, "Oh, this isn't what I was expecting." That was the first line from my new client.
Oh, I mean, did she go on to appreciate your work?
Yeah.
I hope so.
She was nowhere to be seen when I left.
I think possibly she was worried about me dirtying up their incredibly lovely house.
Oh,
Really
that
lovely
was
place.
that was always my experience of tutoring.
Yeah.
You go in like, oh my word, this place is amazing.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
so nice.
Yeah.
You walk in and your bag kind of scuffs the wall, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
thousands of pounds.
Your bag for some reason is just covered in filth.
Biggest TV I've ever seen in anyone's house.
On your birthday, look at that. What a treat.
I got to look at it. It was off, but I got to look at
What are we
it.
talking? 70 inches? To give you, that's 50. To give you some idea.
Well, 50
Then
looks
probably-
frankly
Pathetic,
tiny.
isn't it?
If that's
It disgusts
50,
me.
If that's 50, this was definitely more than 70.
Would you say double? 100 inches of TV.
Quite possibly.
That's huge.
I mean,
That's a bit obscene.
Less than 4 times the size, but
Did it have a slight curvature?
I think it looked completely flat. It was in its own recess, the entire wall. Basically.
Like a movie room
Yeah.
type thing.
Oh, it was the whole... It was what would constitute the entire downstairs of a regular-sized house. But it was just the kitchen.
The TV.
dining. It was,
That's a lot bigger than 100 inches. So, many happy returns. How's it feel to be 48? What are the differences
Well, time
between...
seems to have flown, certainly. It seems like only yesterday I was 34. Wait,
That's
35.
even-
Yeah,
even-
it
God
was
damn it.
yesterday that you were 34.
Oh my god. Any gifts apart from the amazing one you've just been given?
Well, I believe I have some little gift waiting for me at home, but I haven't
If
seen
you
it
know
yet.
what I mean.
All I have is a message on my WhatsApp from someone saying, check your letterbox. But I haven't been home to check it
And that's
yet.
not a threat. You know who it's from.
Well, like I say, this
Could
is,
be.
all, this is all... I know who it's from,
Okay.
but, you know,
Yeah.
it could be an elaborate
Check your
joke.
letterbox.
Yeah. Just a little thought, she described it as.
Okay.
Birthdays do start to get continuous. Well, they just get more boring, don't they?
More boring, more
Yeah.
meaningless.
Yeah, meaningless. That's a better word than that's the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depressing as well.
It's a day that just comes and goes.
Yeah.
You know, oh, thank you very much. You know, no one can think of what to get you anymore
No.
because you don't want anything like you used to.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't want anything.
Don't want
like I
anything,
used-
you know.
I don't.
What are you
I don't
gonna
feel
give me?
desire like I used to.
I'm an empty husk.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, just get me some shoes. You know, because the ones I've got have worn out.
I still remember way back in the day when the N64 came out.
Oh, they were the days when
And
it was. Yeah.
Look, I grew up like I was never going to get a console as a birthday present, but I remember lying in bed just like knowing that I wouldn't get one, but like still imagining that I would. And I
Somehow
wanted it
they're
so
like,
much.
Nagulan, come downstairs.
Yeah.
And there's this box and it's the right size.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, you tear it open and it's not.
Yeah.
It's not an
And at the same time,
N64.
I knew I wasn't getting one, and yet I still wanted that thing to come through more than any desire I felt in the last decade or so.
Well, you must have been overjoyed when I gave you an N64 today.
When I was little, I asked for a computer for Christmas. And they're like, yeah, no, I think Father Christmas is going to bring you a computer. I was like, well, this is amazing. This is exactly what I want. This is going to be the most amazing Christmas ever. Went downstairs, big present in the middle of the room. This is it. Father Christmas has got me a computer. Opened it up. Now, it was a Spectrum Sinclair, which I went on to love dearly and indeed still attempt to run. But at the
I think we need to
time...
know what year this was.
That is... Spectrum Sinclair is like...
It could be an amazing gift.
It
Depending on
is
the
an
year.
amazing gift.
Okay.
I mean, I imagine the Spectrum Sinclair was not at its heyday, but we're talking like 1990, at a guess, 5?
Because I think
I
by
think,
then...
I
I
think 93, 94.
PlayStation is out there dominating.
Mega
at
Drive
that
was
point.
out there. Mega Drive and Master
Okay, so
System
maybe
were
just
out there.
before...
95 PCs
So the
were
SNES.
about PCs were about 33 megahertz.
What,
processing
did it
power.
come with any games?
Well, it did come with games, but the point I was going to make is that at the time I was like, where's the screen? Because obviously a Sinclair you plug into the TV like you used to. I was like, where's the screen? And my dad being like, there isn't a screen, it plugs into the TV. And I remember being like, well, then it's not a computer, is it?
Oh, cold.
And obviously I went on to love it, but
Yeah.
that day I was like, well, this isn't a computer because it doesn't have a screen. I was imagining I suppose what I was imagining was an Amstrad or something like
Or
that.
100 inches of TV, yeah.
It just,
Yeah.
No,
So you were how old then?
I mean,
15.
I'm going to guess around 7-ish,
Yeah.
give or take.
Well,
So you were solidly PC Master Race from the age of 7 years old.
Well, Sinclair is not a PC.
Yeah.
It's a tape
Yeah,
loading.
so
right.
you rejected it. It doesn't have a screen.
Oh, I
it's
see
not
what
a
you mean.
computer.
I'd already seen the future.
Console?
Yes.
What's this bullshit?
Yeah, no, well, I still feel that way about consoles.
Ridiculous.
The only thing that's changed my opinion on consoles is becoming a father, whereby you're just like, oh my god, I've got a few minutes, just turn it on and give me some games for the 10 minutes that I have. Whereas PC, still sort of starting up in that time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and now phone is kind of...
Yeah.
Because it's so convenient and ready to go.
Yeah, you do need to take your turn on Polytopia, because it's a very, very exciting game.
You don't mean that one, do you?
I do mean that one.
Oh, you're the barder. I fear you'll see assault.
This could be it. Touch wood. Touch wood.
Wow, does that mean you've not beaten me yet? Is that what
No,
you
I've
mean?
beaten you, bruv.
You mean taking the crown in a big game?
In a big game with big players, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get you on it.
Yeah.
Well-
Dear listeners, I'm entirely as lost as you are.
Well, some of my listeners, I've got hooked on it. What can I tell you? You know?
Doing better
How
with
many
them than
listeners
you are
do you
with
think
me.
you have?
25,000? I could look at the analytics, but I'm not interested. I'm not a numbers guy.
Yeah, no,
I'm
exactly.
a blue
You're just-
sky,
You're just putting it out there and waiting for the free gifts to roll in.
which they weirdly seem to be.
How did they find you, is what I want to know.
Yes. Have you not been advertised to with this?
I have no
Freebies.
I have no presence online other than like 5 articles where I briefly played with the idea of being the next Owen Jones, but then realised that would necessitate me having an opinion about something every week. And while I do have an opinion about something every week, it's not always worth putting
Sharing.
down in text.
That's
I'm
my...
not sure that's that much of a requirement.
Yeah, exactly. That's
You
my
need
main
opinion every
criticism.
week. It doesn't need to be worthwhile every
No, but it
week.
does need to be worthwhile. Otherwise, you're just participating in the sort of deluge of 500-word
Well,
pieces.
sometimes all you need to do is participate.
Hmm.
You only need to stand out from the crowd at these particular moments.
Yes, I seem to recall a 20-something-year-old version of me thinking that, at a protest.
Yeah.
And lo, what I was protesting has not come true. So no, I've not been targeted for free gifts.
I have been relentlessly targeted for free gifts.
I mean, how do they know? Do they just look up, new podcast?
I've no idea.
Yeah.
A lot of it has nothing to do with the... one of them was a microphone, so that's, related to...
Yeah.
But a lot of it was like today they were like, do you want some free bathroom scales?
Do you mean this tonneau microphone? Perfectly suspended behind a pop shield for ease of recording
Which
and
came with
quality.
Yes. And indeed that one. I don't understand. I don't understand what the
Explain to me
product...
more about these offers of free stuff. What's going on here?
I load up Facebook to post that I've got a new episode out, and the first thing I'll see is an ad, because that's kind of how they've gone now. They're just like, here's an ad.
Right.
And it
why,
will be for get this item for free. And you just click it
Interesting.
through, and you buy the item, and then they give you the money back for it.
Ha! Because
It makes 0 sense to me.
because
What?
you're some...
What made you actually click it in the first place? Because that sounds very much like you actually tried the Nigerian prince
Doesn't it?
email and he answered and gave
Yeah.
you some money.
I was like, well, this seems too good to be true. So I clicked it through.
Lucky.
Good
Very, very
response.
lucky.
But it's all within the Facebook ecosystem. So I assume they're not going to be able to give me a virus through Messenger. Right? Which is how you communicate with them. I don't know. Maybe that's naive.
I still
but
don't think that's
I
true.
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. That was an assumption I made. But it turned out to be correct, because the first thing was just something that cost £7. And I was like, well, if this is a lie, I can't remember what it is. I needed one. I was like, I was going to buy one anyway. So if it's a lie, fine. If it's not, then I get this thing for free that I needed.
Yes. I suppose £7 isn't a lot to have been scammed out of.
Yeah, exactly. What was it? Can't remember. There's been a lot of these things, weirdly. And it just worked. I just gave them my email address and they sent me the money for the product.
And do you have a Facebook business page for this podcast? Is there any way they might know that you could participate in their advertising?
I mean, I haven't shouted out their brand, have I? I haven't, do you know what I mean? I haven't given any of the brands a shout out or anything. I've got pages on Facebook, but it still doesn't seem like, I'm not fucking Kylie Jenner, am I? It's like,
He's not.
I'm Kim. It doesn't seem to me like a business model that is making them money. Let's put it that way.
No, but maybe they're all just destined to fold. All these companies desperately flying out, merchandise or a product idea, and maybe they're just desperately trying to make it stick. Or that there's actually loads and loads of value in an influencer getting on board with your product. I suppose if you filmed yourself, maybe that's what they're imagining that you're.
They don't ask that of you. See, that would be if the terms of service. If they were like, look, post a video on Instagram of you going, I got my new and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Then I could see, okay, those are the strings, but it's not like that.
To be honest, it's theoretically possible if there's a new product going into a space where there's loads of microphones or whatever it was you've got. First, they need to get people using the product before anyone will give a shit about it at all. Like a new brand coming in.
That's what it was. It was a webcam.
Right. Because
if it was good, that's good, because there's a whole load of shit webcams out there right now, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it was good. It's plug and play, it worked.
Perhaps if they don't give it away for free, no one will get it over what's the brand that everyone gets?
Logitech?
Logitech, yeah.
There we go, shout out. Hopefully I'll get some freebies from Logitech now.
Like, otherwise, Logitech can just do what they want, put out a webcam, and everyone will buy it because it's Logitech.
Right, brand loyalty.
Yeah. Or, of course, it's part of some sort of larger conspiracy. Did you read that guy that managed to crash the internet of an entire country? So he managed to crash the internet of an entire country because he was paid to do it by, I don't know what this country is, somewhere in the Asian African continent. Pretty broad. Apologies to all listeners who demand more specificity.
To clear things up, those are two continents.
They are two, and the largest continents, I believe.
You've covered most of the world there.
Yeah. And he was paid by a rival communications company in this country to say, can you bring down communication company B? Right, so communication company A paid him to bring down B. And the way he did it was he found that there was these webcams that were very, very widely distributed in the country that basically had really, really crap security. So he hacked into this webcam and got them to simultaneously send data all at once. The idea being that it would crash the knowledge.
Servers.
I'm actually working for
it would
tech
overload the
server,
servers. Yeah, I think so.
It would clog the tubes.
Yeah.
It would clog the tubes, exactly.
Yeah, that's technical.
And it was so effective, they didn't just bring down this communication company B, it brought down the entire country.
So everyone went dark.
Yeah, exactly. The whole internet went down, and I believe he went to jail.
Oh, failure then. Really.
I could be wrong in that. I mean, I'm disappointed, by the way, Rob, to see that you don't have just like a large computer screen in front of you at all times where you sort of draw knowledge from.
That's what this is for.
Yeah.
I can. Do you want me to fact check you?
See if he went to jail.
What's his name? You don't know. You don't know any of the facts. I don't know. What am I searching for?
Look, I've already hedged my bets by not saying
Africa,
an African country.
Asia.
Although I do believe that was.
That's all I got. What's come up?
Hacker who took down entire nation's internet is jailed.
Wow.
He is in jail.
Good job.
Oh, he's a looker.
Looks like Mesut Ozil.
Daniel Kay. And he was British, and it was Liberia.
Okay,
right. A West African country. So good job I didn't say my gut instinct, which was East African, which would have been wrong. And
good thing
he
you kept it general.
While living in Cyprus. So yeah, there we are.
So it's true, and he's in jail.
And he did it through shitty webcams.
He's jailed in Cyprus or in Africa?
That's a bloody good question. Let's see where he's jailed, because that does affect.
Liberia sounds like a less cool place to be in jail.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that Cyprus
is
a
much. If you have to be dragged there against your will, then they're not going to, be welcoming you.
No,
with a hug.
they're not going to be like, "Hello, it's you."
He is in jail in the UK.
Good for him. The best. I'm British. Look at your face. That's a joke. Jails nowhere are fun.
I know, but there is some I'd take over.
I would take Norway.
Oh, well, yeah, the Scandinavian jails.
100%.
Mate, if I went to a Scandi jail, I'd come out a better person. I'd have probably at least 2 postgraduate qualifications, and I'd also probably have some vocational training.
I don't know that I can differentiate between a Scandinavian jail and lockdown.
Well, I mean, again,
It's in what seems to be a comfortable room with a computer.
there are
where I
more
spend all my
activities.
time.
There are more activities in a Scandinavian jail.
Fair enough. Good.
By the way,
Yeah, it's slightly better than
Yeah,
lockdown in
again,
the
to our
UK.
listeners, I apologise. I am aware that Scandinavia is not a single country, and actually, they all have very different ways of doing things. Nonetheless, broadly, pretty good on the jail front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in Norway the maximum jail term for anything is 14 years. Like, you cannot get more than that.
Right.
Regardless of what you've done.
Well,
Right.
they probably worked
Could
out
be
that
wrong.
there's nothing a human can do.
That's
That
worse.
they can't have rehabilitated in 14
Within
years
14
with
years.
conditions in their
Yeah,
jails.
their model is much more rehabilitation
Yeah.
as opposed to...
Which is what it all should be.
Which is obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of other countries have just the punishment model.
Yeah, well, I mean, we
Don't know.
tend to go that way sort of every time there's an election coming up. Yeah.
I'd quite like it if there was, if there was another side of the coin as well. Like, we have the nicest jail. We're going to help you so much and provide all these things for you. If you haven't become a massively better person after 14 years, you're killed. That's it.
And what's the test you take? Is it one of those BuzzFeed tests? You see how you answer. You're like, apparently you're a shit, so we're going to kill you.
Yeah, it's you take the Harry Potter test and see what else you can. If you go to Slytherin at the end of 14 years.
Oh, God. If you were going to, by some mishap of fortune,
Yes.
find yourself in jail,
Yes.
what crime do you think, realistically, knowing your character, that it would be?
Knowing my character or knowing,
Your
my
flaws, your
proclivities?
foibles, your proclivities, all of that.
Well, it's quite likely that
I'll be arrested any day now
Well-
for...
It's quite likely that I speed through a pedestrian crossing having not seen someone trying to cross and kill someone.
Oh, dude.
I feel like that's my best way of
Wow.
going to jail, I think.
Yeah, running someone
Yeah.
over it's like a real fear.
Well, even today, when I was on the bike, it's
Three
very...
people are
Yeah.
left on the side of the road in pieces.
Don't give them your registration.
This is my last... This will be my last contact, dear listeners.
May as well give out your last will and testament on
I
air.
was coming up to a zebra crossing, and it's a very grey day, and 2 people were crossing the road because a car had stopped a bit early, and they were crossing the road in front of the zebra crossing, wearing head-to-toe grey tracksuit bottoms, and I almost just didn't see them, just because I wasn't looking for anyone on the road. I was looking literally about 2 metres past them. And suddenly, as I got closer, luckily it's raining quite heavily. I don't tend to want to drive ridiculously fast in those conditions. I stopped just in time, but there have definitely been multiple points where I feel like, I'm living on borrowed time here. I'm going to kill someone any one of these days.
The law will catch up to you sooner or later. Chris?
I would like to say that I would go to jail for some sort of glorious political agitation.
Sedition.
Do
we have that as a...
I think we
is that a
do.
crime here?
Yeah, we do.
I'll back you for sedition.
Something sort of really sort of that actually I may become a cult hero for. Realistically, I imagine that what's going to happen is that being that I sort of entered the world of, real work as a contrast to acting work, which isn't real work. Given the fact that I've entered the world of real work without actually really knowing how the world of real work works, it's the sort of thing where someone come up to me and go, yeah, Mr. Birks, are you the person that did this? I'm like, yes, I am the person that did that. And they're like, right, because that actually contravenes...
Yeah, that actually carries a mandatory jail sentence.
14 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, right. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you not?
Yeah.
No. It's like, no, I didn't. I just clicked that button because I believe clicking that button would fulfill this task quickly. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, you've released the data of thousands of people and you're going to go to jail now. So I think realistically that'll be what happens to me.
Because there's that old adage that ignorance is no defence, right? It's not an excuse.
Absolutely, it's no defence, but that's all I'll have.
But still going to use it. But I feel that's not entirely fair. I guess the reason they say that is because then any old person would be like, I didn't know
Yeah, it's
it was
pretty
against
good.
the law
Yeah,
to
yeah.
kill
No.
someone.
There are certainly some laws. I think some laws in particular where it's like it specifically applies to that, where it's your responsibility to check that what you're doing is legal.
Yeah, that's what happens quite a lot to sort of you know, a lot of these sort of people that find themselves going to jail because of financial indiscretions, they're not actually the people that did it. They're sort of the lawyers or the accountants that basically processed the act unwittingly. And it's like, oh, I see, that person that managed to sell up and had been very clever and rid themselves of all responsibility is fine, whereas I'm going to jail.
Yeah. I think there was a total of one man who went to jail for the 2008 financial crisis.
One man.
Some, like, Swiss junior banker.
Yeah, exactly.
Who everyone decided it's his fault.
Yeah. He was the only guy that wrote his name down. Exactly. Yeah.
You used your real name?
Yeah.
Oh!
Ron, what would be your crime?
Impersonating a police officer.
Police officer.
Continually.
To their face.
In the courtroom.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is the retraining for skills thing. I think we mentioned it a bit earlier before we recorded.
Yeah, so hopefully we haven't used up all of the material.
I'm sure we won't have. You familiar with the new drive from the government to like retrain?
Not as such, but I mean the idea of being able to retrain people into new careers has, you know, been necessary for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, arguably since forever, right?
Yeah,
since the plough.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things.
Might have pushed it too far.
I mean, I was thinking more recently in that it's one of the major drivers for both Brexit and fucking Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I mean both of which involve
the decline of traditional industries.
Yeah, and people being unhappy about that as opposed to being able to just slot seamlessly into new ones.
So what's come up? There's a couple of things that have come up about this very recently. Two things that are kind of getting a lot of attention. One of which is this quiz you can take from the government. Like you fill out X number of questions and they go, well, you qualify for training for this, or not qualify because they don't give it to you, but they're like, this could be a good career path for you. This could be a good.
I did see that. I went on Facebook to check how many random people had messaged me saying happy birthday.
Yeah.
How many?
And I saw.
How do you do? It's a dwindling number each year for me.
Yeah, it is. I haven't been on Facebook other than for this since last year's birthday. The ratio of people wishing me happy birthday that I would not speak to is definitely increased. About 20, I would say about 14 or 15 are now people that I'm like, you? Really?
Right.
I mean, that
After I slept with your wife?
to me, that just tells me that you haven't been divisive enough over the previous years of Facebook in order that these people are still seeing you in their feed. That the algorithm hasn't just gone...
Well, I haven't been anything. I've been very... as bland as nothingness can be.
You're right, yeah. Because I have swathes of friends that I never see on Facebook. And presumably that's because I've just spent the last few years going, and another thing! And eventually they're like, they don't care about your things.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to put you two in separate echo chambers.
Yeah, exactly. The only people I see on Facebook is like one other guy who's like as angry as me, and then two other guys who are as angry in opposite.
Yeah.
So the only people I speak to are one other outright lefty and two really Breitbarty people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my last flurry of activity on Facebook around Brexit, arguing with slightly more conservative peers of university level that were on the other side of the left-right divide, understanding why. Arguing that people who wanted a Brexit should be heard out and listened to a little more. To which I replied, yes, I'm okay with that, but not just before we're about to vote for Brexit.
not
we vote for not Brexit, and then I'll listen to
not
what
when
your
we're still in
grievances are.
persuade mode.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so sorry, you went on Facebook to do this quiz.
Well, I saw a bunch of people talking about things like this, and at the time I was quite confused as to why everyone had apparently gone and seen a high school year counsellor, a careers counsellor. But now it all becomes clear, and I kind of feel like I should just check what they're offering me as well.
Ah, and did you do it?
No, I haven't done yet.
Right, all right. Have you done it?
I didn't finish it.
So it's an official government website?
It's an official government website. I didn't finish it because I got about halfway through it, and the type of questions they were asking was so shit.
Mm-hmm. Give me an example.
Stuff like... in a group situation, would you rather lead or follow?
Oh my God.
And then it's like extremely like to lead, moderately, all the way down to not at all. And after about 15 questions that were all like that, I was like, how are they going to know what career I can do after these questions?
To be fair, I would rather those questions than the other side of the coin, the ones that are too blatantly specific. Question 26. Do you like flowers? No. It's not going to be a flower.
Well, but at least...
Are you good with a paintbrush?
Moderately good.
Could be a decorator. Reminds me of, at my school, sort of the careers department, I suppose it would have been, came across this sort of test, and you did it all, and it sort of suggested what careers you might be good at. I don't know if every school has
I did
this,
one of these at school.
One of these, yeah. So anyway, and there was sort of a parents' evening, if you will, afterwards, where everyone came in with their parents into this room, and they sort of talked about the results. And essentially, every single set of parents were furious with the results of this test. People were getting told that that they should go be lawyers when they wanted to be doctors. People were being, it was hilarious, and people were furious. They were shouting because I think they'd been charged as well. Wow. And there was just the poor careers department at the front going like, well, we were told. So I imagine what the government is feeling now, which I can only presume is going to be the response to this, is akin to my old careers department. As the people are saying, well, this is nonsense because I'm already a dentist.
Yeah, well, exactly. We had one of those at our school, and I remember there was a fatal flaw in whatever primitive algorithm they was using at the time, because it asked what your highest level of qualification was. And I hadn't yet sat my GCSEs.
Right.
So I didn't have fucking anything.
Yeah.
So the results were like, you could be a leafleter.
Yeah.
And in that defence, you were a leafleter.
I was.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I was excellent at it. It was my calling in life.
Yeah.
I don't know how good you were.
Well, it depends if you mean good for your employer, good for yourself.
Well, exactly.
An experienced leafleter can get rid of many leaflets
Like that.
in various bins all over town. In fact, I think the only thing that being a very good leafleter qualifies you is disposing of a body sometime later on in life.
Same skill set.
Basically, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Now,
that's a career option.
I've leafleted with Rob, and I can say that the effort line is a slow sort of downward trend until a cliff where it drops to zero.
I will start out being like, let's go, we're here for hours, let's do it.
Let's talk to everyone.
Yeah. And that will very quickly degrade, and then, like you say...
Just be under an awning somewhere, staring at his phone, grumbling that he's hungry.
I remember leafleting with our friend Trishelle from school. If you drew a straight line from where he got the leaflets to Trishelle's house, the first time that line crossed a bin, that's where you would find all of our leaflets. And shortly afterwards, you'd find ourselves at Trishelle's house playing Pro Evolution Soccer.
Arguably, that's the best way to leaflet.
When there's a real carrot at the end of it all.
Exactly. But to bring it back to the government one, I have seen quite a lot of my friends posting about their results online.
Right.
They've taken the whole quiz. Two particular ones that stick out as noteworthy. Sarah Crowden, who is an actress, been in the game for decades at this point. Also stand-up comedian. You've seen her perform live. It's very funny. Maybe you have as well. But so she took it, and they were like, suggested careers. Why not consider becoming an actor? Retrain as what you already are, which strikes me as pathetically inept for that algorithm. And then another comic friend, Raoul Coley.
I mean, they could at least ask before you take the quiz, what are you already doing?
They're too busy being like, do you feel like you're more of a leader? Or fucking shut up. But anyway, Raoul took the quiz and he two things. Professional footballer.
No.
Or boxer.
Wow.
They were like, and underneath it was like, boxers are athletes who use their hands.
I'd like to see the answers he filled out. You feel like you're a leader and a follower. I'm an athlete, mate. How do you solve problems? With my muscles.
Well, then clearly this thing is not fit for purpose, because if three of the careers they suggested are acting, professional footballing or professional boxing, then that's diabolical, because they are like the three things that people who are doing them need to retrain to do something else because it hasn't worked out.
Exactly.
So this is the thing. So I saw there was this huge outcry about the fact they used a ballet dancer.
Right, that's the
and
other
it
thing.
said, what's her name? Fatima could go on to go into coding or go on to be.
Her next
her
job
tech.
could be in cyber
And there
or
was an
something.
outcry in cyber, and there was an outcry about it, and I sort of didn't really get the outcry because I was like, well, I mean, even ballet dancers that make it are like a lot of them are done by their mid-20s.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good career actually to advertise retraining on.
Yeah, it's a career you age out of.
I mean, exactly.
Mostly. I mean, so obviously some people stay in it.
Some people do amazing work forever.
Yeah.
But, and also, much like acting, as Rob and I will tell you, lots of people try for it, and there just aren't that many positions. And so lots of people who are wonderfully talented and have trained perfectly don't get to be professional ballet dancers.
Yeah.
So again, I was like, this is a pretty good person to put on the advert. So what was
I think from what I've seen is that people took it more broadly as just an attack on creative endeavours.
Oh yeah, no, so yes, this was
you
it.
know?
We were like, man, the creative thing.
Because you have to train really hard to be a ballet dancer. It takes a long time. It's very difficult to do it well. So I don't know any professional ballet dancers, but I know like musicians and actors and writers and stuff like that who also you have to train for a long time and give up various other things to do it, and it's an unstable living. And they felt it was also an attack on them because they're in adjacent sectors.
Right.
I think that's the outcry.
So the people that complained were people like you and I who took umbrage to the fact that someone was pointing out that our profession of choice is quite hard.
Yes. Well, I mean, not even hard. It's literally impossible to do our profession right now.
It's unreliable in a way that there are certain professions that are designed to be reliable. Almost.
Yeah.
Your vocational professions, accountancy, dentistry. It's quite hard to really screw those up, right? You jump through the hoops, and you are that job, and you get this reliable pay. And
at that point, the only way of screwing up is kind of yourself. Like, did you see the dentist who got sentenced to like 9 years or something because he was? There was a video leaked of him operating on a patient who was under anaesthesia while, kid you not, he was on a hoverboard.
No.
One of those stupid board things with the wheels that you can like zoom around on. He was doing the operation while on that.
Some would say he's a visionary.
Vision is scary. I'm quoting Eminem. His vision was a world in which we have worse teeth.
And so he went to jail.
Even more crazy than that. He didn't go to jail for that.
Right.
But that shined a light on him.
Oh, no.
And then they started digging into him, and he had like years of financial irregularities.
Oh, no.
And bilking people for procedures that they didn't need.
Oh, no.
In America, where like these procedures can be very expensive.
Unless he used those proceeds to buy the hoverboard, that's the most unrelated crime since Al Capone's got taken down.
It's that thing of criminals. It's like, don't buy the expensive car, don't wear the Rolex.
Yes.
Rolex?
Rolex.
Really?
Well, that's
Do wear the Rolex.
Do wear the Rolex.
Don't wear the Rolex, don't buy Roblox. That's where you're going.
If you wear the Rolex, that's fine, because people go, he's got, he's got delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, exactly.
If you wear the Rolex, they're like, well, he's got grandeur.
And if you've got grandeur, people are like, how'd you get that grandeur? And then the guns come out.
Now, at the risk of seeming, callous, what exactly is the crime of standing on a hoverboard? Well, I feel like they can't possibly have legislated for that scenario.
I reckon they haven't legislated for that specific scenario. Because, when you look into, historic laws, where it's like, it's illegal to ride on a donkey through this town at 3 p.m. And you're like, well, obviously, at some point in time, it was a real problem. And they had to make it illegal.
Do you think in about 1,000 years, there's going to be a form of boulder dash? It is illegal to operate dental surgery while standing on a hoverboard.
Why not pass it as a law? Yeah. It seems like if we need to make it plain, why not make it plain?
I think it's certainly a strong candidate for a bylaw.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'll go with that.
What is a bylaw? I mean, from what I can tell, a bylaw is, somebody really wants something to be a law, but people are like, no, we're not going to make that into a law. So people go, well, fine, it's a bylaw then. and you can't do it here.
Is it enforceable?
A bylaw is a rule made by a company or society to control the actions of its members.
Yeah.
How
right.
vague is
Wait,
that?
as opposed to what? As opposed to regular laws?
So for example, the railways, for example, are like,
Yeah,
we can't
okay.
allow this, and people are like, that's ridiculous. Of course, people can do that, and they go, well, not on the railway, and they make it around.
It's a bylaw.
It's specific to a
Right.
particular domain of a.
If
someone
I
who otherwise has a not very large domain.
if I own a beautiful land full of rabbits,
And you do.
I don't want dogs running around my beautiful land of rabbits.
So your bylaw is...
So my bylaw is no dogs.
No dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Because
No
I have a
Irish.
garden in which many cats
Yes.
won't take a shit.
Now, of course, you could.
Can I create a bylaw for my garden that says any cats found in this garden are...
What, subject to what, though?
Well, that's the thing.
How far are you
I
going to
don't
go?
want to alienate your listeners.
Sorry. Well, we're all in this room. Well, I mean, I think, for example, this is the trouble the railway get into all the time, is they try and enforce their bylaws with, like, fines and stuff. And I believe that they actually don't have any sort of jurisdiction to do that. I believe if you challenge it, then the vast majority are fine.
So bylaws are essentially
Yeah.
not a law.
Yeah, bylaws are the sort of things that only exist in places like the UK. We would go, oh, well, we can't have dogs here.
Yeah.
Whereas
the thing.
There's other places they'd be like, well, I'm going to bring my dog.
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
But you create the illusion of, like, if you cross this, there will be a penalty. And the vast majority of people are like, oh, I better not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just psychology 101, baby.
Is it? Is that what you learned?
Yeah. But it's true, isn't it? It's like, it's compliance.
It is. It would fall down at my personal philosophy of you can do anything until someone stops you doing it.
This is how you'll go to jail.
This is how he goes to jail. That's outrageous.
Forget running people over.
Anything may be a stretch.
That has tax evasion written all over it. Right there.
Also, if someone's coming to your house, if someone's entering your house and they have to read a list of bylaws just to get in, it's not a very welcoming, scenario.
Sure. But
Welcome to my house. Here are the bylaws. Please familiarise yourself with this booklet.
yes, but I mean, I say to you, come to my house tomorrow. I waive all bylaws. There you go. That's how you know you're a guest.
Right. What are the bylaws of your house? Are the bylaws of your house basically pay all my outgoings?
Massages
completely
thrice
mutually
weekly.
beneficial arrangement.
Yeah. The bylaws in Indy's place are keep me in the lifestyle to which I've become accustomed.
I
Bathe me in milk.
I have noticed that
Not milk.
Not cow's milk.
Yeah,
No.
my tenants are tending towards people that are in what would technically be vulnerable situations. So, for instance,
Wow, that's a change.
for instance, my last two tenants, well, my current one and one a while ago, have been tenants with dogs, and so they quite obviously find it difficult to get tenancies other place, whereas I don't even really notice.
Yes.
And occasionally
It's not
I
in
come
the
across
bylaws.
yeah.
You're cool with the dogs.
Occasionally I come across a dog in my house and I pet it, and I'm pleased to see it. But for them...
Presumably always the same dog. It's not, you're running a borstal for dogs.
It's like my partner will often say, I met a nice dog today, and I'll be like, are you sure you didn't see a nice dog? Did you meet it?
Well, dogs are very amenable to meeting rather than seeing in general. Now, cats, quite often you see them, but you do not get to meet them.
Yeah, that's true. Dogs have human eyes,
Yeah.
so you get to meet them.
Well, they have dog eyes. That
Human eyes? We'll agree to disagree.
It's like Facebook all over again.
I mean, I could quite imagine that a dog would go back to its doggy mates and be like, "Oh, I met this guy today," whereas a cat would not.
Yeah, but that's from the dog's perspective, because the dog doesn't know any better.
Well, sure, but the dog thinks it's met you, so I've met the dog. Whereas a cat, if you meet a cat, it doesn't give a shit. It's not going to go back to any other cats and be like, "Oh, I met this guy today."
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I think, the dog thinks that because the dog thinks it's on par with you, and you shouldn't think that because you are not on par with the dog. Well, maybe you're not.
Well,
maybe it is a purer being.
Morally speaking, empathetically speaking, I feel like dogs can compete with humans.
They can hold their own.
Yeah.
Dogs in heaven, mate.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Look it up. Not now.
Not here.
I believe there was an animated documentary.
All dogs go to heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dogumentary.
Nice.
Please. If you wouldn't mind. two things that I wanted to talk to you about, like specifically, as opposed to just this rambling
How has this been going?
chat.
Do you think this free-form chat?
I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just aware that we're probably the first people in about 3 or 4 episodes that are not professional comedians. So feeling the pressure just a smidge.
Arguably not really professional anything.
Well, exactly. That is true. We are. Rob is probably the most professional of us all.
Yes!
And that's simply by virtue of having a job most recently.
This is the Everyman episode then.
Right.
The man down the pub.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have you on if you weren't,
Yeah.
my friends.
Is this the Mates Rates episode?
One thing's funny is we originally conceived of doing a podcast together.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, really?
So that's one of the things. Go on.
Your betrayal.
We originally conceived of this back when we were young 20-somethings and our lives were sort of daily, adventures in debauchery and excess. Whereas now we're doing it and our lives are not that.
Yes.
Our lives are
true.
remarkably sensible, certainly by those. I mean, for God's sake, one time then we lived off leeks for 2 weeks.
The leek weeks.
And continued to drink. Our
diet back then was a whole episode.
Oh my God! What about chicken runoff?
Chicken runoff.
Which was made from the...
Peanut butter cabbage?
Peanut butter cabbage, yeah, that was gross. But the chicken runoff was particularly poor because it was...
Explain what it was.
It was Indy's attempt to make stock. Now, to be honest, and as far as I can tell, he did it the right way, which is you take a carcass and you boil it. I've seen real-life adults make stock, and that is how you do it, it seems.
Yeah.
But when Indy did it, it just became this, like...
Well, do you remember the fat that he used?
No.
Nah.
I didn't use the George Foreman fat.
Yes.
The George Foreman fat was
Used
a whole
me.
other-
Yes, you did. That was chicken runoff, hence the name runoff. It was all of the crap that you'd made in the George Foreman had collected in the fat tray.
Well, you say
and you were
like it wasn't all three of us.
It was you. It was you. We didn't do the chicken runoff. We didn't do peanut
No,
butter chicken.
but the fat created in the
didn't
George
do
Foreman
either.
was all three of us.
The George Foreman was collective. When was the last time you used a George Foreman grill? I was saying this the other day. What happened to them? They just sort of went out of
Well,
vogue?
I think, you know what the thing about the George Foreman is? Actually, why do you want to drain the fat?
Because that's the most delicious bit.
It's delicious, and it's not like it's like bad for you in the way that they thought it was.
And it did just basically mean that your kitchen had in it a sort of little tray
of fat.
And little tiny little nublets and
and like
fallen
some
off.
weird liquid that would drain and stuff. You're like,
When do you
that's
think-
not the problem.
If he even has done that, George Foreman has tipped from being famous for being a boxer to being famous for having a
Well, I
grill.
think basically for our generation, because the only reason I knew he was a boxer was because I had on the Master System.
We got one.
And my brother got one. And the Master System we called it because we were we were north of Watford. On the Master System, which was George Foreman KO boxing.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, that sounds
And
fun.
it was great because basically you had to beat your opponent until your power bar started to flash, and then you could press both A and B simultaneously and deliver a power punch that would essentially TKO them instantly. But so the only reason I knew he was a boxer was because of George Foreman's KO boxing. So I imagine that if you were not privy to that same Master System game as I was, that you also thought he was just a griller.
Or there's the film with him and
he's
Ali.
famous for his interaction with Ali.
Yeah.
And I think maybe like if you hadn't known him for that, you would have come across him for his role in.
How big is boxing though?
Well,
What do you mean now?
Because like
Yeah, I mean
boxing,
this isn't a sports
I'm
podcast. I'm not sure where it's
Not yet, it's about to
I tell you
become.
what, if you want to get onto the football, because the boxing, obviously, if you're into boxing, everyone knows boxing and they love it. But I've never really been sure it's actually sort of come down to a sort of popular culture thing. The most into boxing I got was when I was at university and we'd stay up all night. There was late at night sort of classic boxing about 4 a.m. which would basically just show Prince Nazim and Mike Tyson fights.
That is true.
They were great.
That is true. However, there are, like, in sports that are on the fringe of this kind of regular society pervasiveness, you get people that, I mean, I hesitate to sound so knobby as to use this word, but transcend the sport. Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about fans. So I got you. Yes.
And Muhammad Ali in boxing. And
they capture a wider imagination.
You know about them.
You bring more eyeballs into the sport.
Yeah.
for sure.
Being related to that story, I feel George Foreman has a decent chance.
I think boxing, it's pretty popular because it wouldn't generate as much money as it does.
Well, I know.
If it wasn't.
It's always faintly surprised me because, look, I like to watch a big heavyweight fight as much as the next person.
Yeah.
But I've always been amazed at sort of the ability. I don't know. I've never sort of. I once went to someone's house quite recently who was like really into boxing.
Right.
He was like, "Are you into boxing?" And I was like, "Well, I like boxing."
Yeah.
And he was really, really into it. And
Yeah.
I sort of am just amazed. I mean, it must take a lot of effort to be into boxing, I suppose is what I'm saying.
It takes a lot of money.
What, your pay-per-view?
It's very expensive
pay-per-view. Do you go and watch
pay-per-view.
Grassroots? I've no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've done...
It's well established.
Yes.
The thing. Very well established.
Yeah.
If you compare it to something like MMA,
Yeah.
which presumably you should do in terms of
Yes.
seeing how well a
Combat sport, yeah, right. I much prefer to watch boxing than UFC. I can't really...
Yeah, no,
I
me
can't
too.
hack
Me too.
the thing where they're on the ground
Yeah.
and still being pummeled in the head.
Yes.
I'm like, this is...
I'm a fan of a rule.
Yeah.
I do like a rule, and I quite like it when it's like, you just use your hands. It's like, fantastic. Now we can get
Yeah,
involved.
there's something kind of pure about that. It's like,
Yes.
look, just these.
Yes.
Queensberry rules, right?
Yes.
Just kind of...
Welcome to Public School Podcasting with Rob and Chris.
I interestingly would go the other way. I would rather MMA than...
What I like about
Really?
MMA is that idea. Like, the idea of like, look, it's a fight.
Yeah.
Use what you got. But there are rules in MMA. It's not
There
a
are
free-for-all.
And like, I'm not going to pretend I understand them all, but I feel it's one of those things where there's a lot of depth of enjoyment to be had from it that a lot of people don't get, including me, because we don't really understand
The
everything that's going
techniques
on.
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a little glimpse of that in the run-up to the Conor McGregor and Khabib fight,
Yeah.
where people were talking more about the different holds and what you could
Yeah.
do and what you couldn't. But certainly,
Did you watch the fight?
Was that the
I
one that was
did,
over in
yes,
2
yes.
seconds?
No,
No,
I
not
think it was
no.
4 rounds. But it was like a very clear indication of the dominance of one style versus the other.
Ah.
It's like, if you can bundle someone up
Yes,
and
but
hold
Khabib-
them,
Khabib
which he
is
can,
like a spectacular
he's
practitioner.
just ridiculous. Yeah, he's unbeatable.
Yeah.
If you watch it, it's like almost Connor's being bullied. And like, no
Oh,
one...
did he lose, did he?
Well...
Oh yes, Connor is the big mouth trash talker.
Well, I know
poster
And
he
he's
is.
boy.
obviously he's a very good
He
fighter,
lost,
but like Khabib is unbeaten,
Right.
and you can't imagine anyone beating him.
I mean, this is like the guy. Khabib is the guy who literally grew up. He wrestled a bear as a kid.
He's from Dagestan, and he just grew up just doing this. So it's like, of course he's. But then again, look, McGregor comes from the traveller community in Ireland, and like, if you've ever seen, there's an amazing documentary. I think it's called Bear or it's called Knuckle, but it's not called both. It's one of the two, and it charts like the subculture, and this was like during the time of VHSs, and what they do, they'd make like shit talking VHSs and send them to their opponents.
See, that I like. That
You
I
know,
like,
it'd be like, I'm gonna fucking knock your block off. Me and you don't stand a fucking chance.
That sounds
right?
amazing.
It's amazing. And
Yeah,
then
that
they
sounds
would
amazing.
meet in sort of these undisclosed locations. They'd have a neutral ref, hopefully, and like people around, and it was just like, go.
So is that why you mentioned the idea of one style over another, with Connor being a practitioner
Yeah.
who grew up in
So
that
he
kind
comes
of
from
more
that kind of
bare-knuckle boxing.
striking, right?
Right,
Basically,
whereas Khabib clearly
wrestler.
comes from wrestling.
He's a wrestler.
Yeah,
And once you have someone in a grip and they don't know how to get out of it,
yeah,
it's exhausting.
you can like it's weird. It's like when you think of MMA, you think of all these flashy strikes, but you see someone like Khabib who's just been grown up in core strength, and the way he fights, he's like, he'll get someone in a grip and he inches his way up their body like a worm.
Yeah.
Literally like a worm. You can see
It
him
is.
like gradually, like a caterpillar moves. The back end moves up and he hunches in the middle, and the front end moves out, and he goes up their body and just absolutely encloses them.
I have to show you this knockout. I don't usually watch these, but this one from the most recent UFC is unbelievable.
Okay, well, that was quite persuasive. You know, you're talking to me about techniques. However, I feel like it's one of those things that, you know, much like when we're talking about ballet, much like when you have a ballet class, they're like, okay, we're going to do this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. And you're like, well, that sounds absolutely easy as anything. I can't wait to do this. And they start the music, and it's all over in 2 seconds, and you didn't manage to pull a single move off.
Yeah.
I imagine you're here talking to me about all these techniques, and then if I see it, you're like, ah! And then someone's out.
Yes. Yeah. And an expert would say, well, that's not that hold, that's the other hold, because he was 15 degrees angled this way. That
is definitely true. Did you see it?
Oh my word! So you grabbed his foot and then did the old.
I feel it's something we've all tried at some point
that was
in a playground fight.
Well, that was from the old WWF. The children watching may know this as the WWE, but in our days it was the World Wildlife Federation, which is where you went for your wrestling.
Yeah. It genuinely looks relatively innocuous, the way the contact is made, but that is a professional fighter going down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, so for people who haven't seen it, I'll share the link. But basically, the guy tries to throw a kick, it gets caught, and so he then spins on his axis while being held in a kick to deliver the other foot to his face.
And when you see that, I suppose, especially when I'd mentioned wrestling WWE, which is fake, and you realise it because when I just watched that kick just then, you're like, actually, if you kick a bloke like that, they're basically knocked out instantly.
Yeah.
My granddad has a great story because I come from a little town called Stamford where there's a very large travelling fair every Lent. And in the old days, it was a proper old travelling fair. And one of the stalls would be like a boxing stall. Go X amount of rounds with our champion.
Wow.
That
seems like an accident waiting.
Yeah, no, proper old fashioned where you'd go in and put the money on, and someone would try and go X amount of rounds with the champion of the fair. Anyway. And my granddad tells a story of him being a little boy, and he went with his dad. And basically, the local people put up their champion versus the fairground champion. And the town's champion kicked this guy's ass. But the ref was doing the whole 1, 2, and was not counting him out. And basically, people got angry until eventually it kicked off. And my granddad remembers his dad looking down at him and going, now. And the whole town just ripped this entire tent apart, took all the money, distributed it amongst themselves, and basically ran off into the night.
This is proper old school.
Proper old school, right? Yeah, that was the fair.
We'll probably sort of wrap it up soon, but we were going to talk a bit about it was kind of two things that I wanted to talk about, and they're related. And maybe I'll just have you guys back on, and we can actually kind of go back into this.
We should come back on because I can. Because it's very lonely listening to it and shouting things out, and of course you can't hear me. Yeah.
I love you. I love to have back on. I think this has been a really good episode. But we recorded a number of episodes of a podcast. All three of us.
Right, yes.
And we would occasionally have guests as well.
Yeah.
But we recorded them just through, my phone or something.
Yes.
I don't know even where these recordings are.
Technology was a large barrier to that.
I'm guessing that those podcasts right now exist on a hard drive on which I would never think to look.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're somewhere in the archive.
Yeah.
Do
you want me to try and pull them out?
Yeah. See if you can find them.
We seem to have smashed through now, looking at 3 pop shields, 3 professional mics, 2 swing arms.
Yeah, how were we doing? Well, we were just talking about phones.
We were literally, I think we just had one phone in the... Yes. Maybe we had some device, actually. Maybe it was some primitive recording device.
We used to get way too out of it, is what I remember.
Yeah.
We used to get way too messed up, and so basically it would just turn into shouting. Whereas now it's the opposite, and actually, if only we could reach those heady heights.
I mean, there's still time for a bit of yelling.
Yeah, what's your second topic?
Well, I wanted to... I think we should probably maybe give 1 or 2 stories now, but think about it and we can give a few more, because we all lived together for a number of years in Simmons' house. When's Simmons' Day, actually? Is that soon?
Oh, my word, Simmons' Day. When did we decide that was? That would be...
It's in my calendar sometime.
I mean, I think that's soon, if not... I mean, that's this month, basically.
I hope it is, because it took a long while for us to decide on the actual day.
Yeah.
Well, I've turned my phone off, so it won't go off during the recording.
Go through that again.
Simmons' Day, we lived in a wonderful place, Simmons' house, that... Although I am now a father with a life partner, I still consider Simmons' house to be my home.
I mean, we should clarify. So Simmons' Day is the day we decided to remember ourselves as all moving in together.
Yeah.
It was quite a momentous day. We lived there for... How long did we all live there for?
Well, I lived there for over 4 years.
But
You lived
you
there
guys
for, if I
together?
remember rightly, a sort of...
Like 2.5,
Me
maybe?
and Rob moved out at fairly...
I moved out a
You
bit
moved out
after
early
you.
and left us with a shit show
Yeah.
of
my parents
back
bought me a
papers.
house. So.
I think I was like half a year to a year more than you because
Yeah.
I lived
Louis,
with the other
right. You two and Louis.
Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the picture framer who
Yeah.
became a conspiracy theorist.
Who actually now is a coder and is a perfectly respectable and highly adept member of the tech industry.
He learned to code.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
we
He
go.
retrained, exactly.
Fatima's
yeah.
next job could be in cyber.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we should specify that Louis wasn't a ballet dancer at the time.
no,
We knew.
no.
Not that we know. He might have moonlit as one.
Yeah.
Don't know. But I think we've got a ton of funny stories from that time.
Yeah.
I don't know which would be the best to tell. In fact, I think what we should do is collate some stories and we'll have you guys back on and we'll tell some of the funniest stories from those times.
Yes.
Because we've got a bunch of them.
Yes.
It was a
And I
pretty wild
presume
time.
We have to try and find stories that don't incriminate us.
Yeah.
Or reveal to our parents who might listen to this that we got up to no good.
Yes, exactly.
Right, okay,
So
okay.
we'll find a way to tell them
I
that
feel like
avoid.
they're broadly assuming that we got up to no good.
Yeah, but like sort of, like I think they think of it like, the sort of no good where you pinch your boy's ruddy cheek and send him on his way.
Right.
I don't really know about our actual level of no good.
We'll
which is...
come up with some stories where we pinched boys' right cheeks and sent them on their way.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well
That's
then.
basically how every party at Simmons' house ended.
Yeah, like, oh, you little rascal, off you go now.
If you count pinching boys' cheeks as getting punched in the face.
That was only that one part.
Okay, well, great. Perfect. That will be something that the listeners can look forward to
exactly.
next time.
After this dry run,
After
we'll
this-
hopefully get somewhere a little
we'll
bit
come in
more.
next time. We'll have all the stories. We'll be ready to go.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, unless you've got anything else that you'd like to interject at this point, here we go. Here's your golden moment.
Well,
Indy.
it depends how much more time we have.
We have, I would say,
And how serious you want to go.
6 more minutes. It's up to you, mate.
Because I did see today the spectre of COVID reinfections coming on. Now,
Fuck.
this
is not a 6-minute topic.
Given that your podcast is based on the idea that you are stuck at home because of COVID infections,
Correct.
the idea that reinfections are a thing seems pretty relevant for the longevity.
So, is this the news story that there was that one guy who got reinfected and it was worse than the first time? I'm a bit hazy on the details, but I did read it this morning.
A couple, and I do mean a couple, like 3 or 4 scientifically confirmed cases of reinfection.
So Donald Trump saying he's now immune is a lie?
Well, I mean, I think we can assume. I don't know when the last time he's told the truth is.
No, but
and it's certainly accidentally.
The conspiracy
Yeah, but
theory is he never even had it.
No, I think the thing is he might be immune because actually there are a lot of people that get COVID and don't, go on a ventilator and die. So actually to that extent, most people are sort of inverted commas immune because it doesn't kill them. And I just imagine it's the sort of thing that like a doctor said in passing to Donald Trump. It's like, oh, don't worry, you're immune to the worst of the symptoms. And he just went, I'm immune. It's amazing. It's like, no, Donald, actually, I mean, like, I meant it in a way that lots of millions of people are immune.
Yeah.
And now Florida's like, yeah, he's immune.
It is also true that a lot of people that have recovered in inverted commas from COVID, i.e. meaning they don't test positive for COVID anymore, do have some severe, long-lasting symptoms.
Yeah.
And I think everyone now will have seen the video of Trump struggling to breathe.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
No.
Well, you should, because, it's very clear he is not in good condition. He's not healthy.
Well, right now.
I mean, I had asthma growing up, and, it looks like me struggling to breathe.
You can see it in his eyes, huh?
Very, very strong visual differences. The actual body movements, the tensing of the mouth, everything. I'm like, I remember that. I remember how that.
See yourself in DJT.
Yeah.
So why have you brought this up? Because we were all laughing and joking, having a wonderful time. I think I was wrapping up the show, and then you bring in COVID.
I can always
I
the conspiracy.
I just don't want your
It's
listeners
made up.
to.
You ain't sure.
I just don't want your listeners to leave in too happy a mood. I feel that would be a bonus to them that they are undeserving of.
Right. It's called the bliss of the abyss, not the abyss.
Not immersion in the abyss.
Yeah, but the end of that is abyss.
Wait, you know what we can end with? Chris, can you do the conspiracy voice with some of your...
The government is after you. Bill Gates. That's basically
I'm gonna cut it and put it at the beginning.
Whenever we start,
or at various points throughout.
What that comes from is whenever I have
5G.
Basically, whenever I have a conversation about COVID and try to introduce the other side of the argument, the dare I say that we don't need to go into lockdown, I just hear in the back of my brain as I'm getting sucked into the vortex of alternative
Exactly. And you know what another word for vortex is? Abyss. You have been listening to The Bliss of the Abyss. Thank you very much for coming on. Indraneelan.
Thank you very much for having me.
Christopher.
Pleasure.
Come back soon. We'd love to have you. Peace and love. We're out. Thank you for listening to the show. This has been The Bliss of the Abyss with your host, me, Robin Umar Jones, Ruskin Denmark, whatever you want to call me. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider supporting it by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/The Bliss of the Abyss and give whatever you can. It really, really helps support the show and keeps it growing and becoming better and bigger and brighter. Follow us on all the social medias, follow me on all the social medias, and give us 5 stars. It helps grow the show. Keep coming back every week for more Bliss of the Abyss.
Message 1. Payno's with me, and she's calling to see if maybe you're in now, but I guess not, so I guess I will talk to you tomorrow, and have a good night. Talk to you then. Bye.